O mundo nunca falou tanto em consumo consciente como agora. Ele deixou de ser uma opção para se transformar em uma necessidade. De agora para frente, vamos precisar ser ainda mais gentis com a natureza. Isso significa descobrir em quais condições trabalhistas aquele produto foi feito, conhecer bem a origem das matérias-primas e ter uma cadeia de consumo mais limpa e eficiente, gerando menos resíduos e menos lixo. É assim que o Kind Letter acredita e atua. Consumo consciente é um gesto de gentileza. Mas essa preocupação do Kind Letter não é de hoje. O mundo mudou. Por isso, precisamos cultivar hábitos cada vez mais conscientes. Acesse kindletter.com e veja como nosso processo de produção é pensado todos os dias nesse novo mundo.
The story of this family business begins on May 8th, 1821. In the late 60s, the family decides to focus on fats and tanning substances for the leather industry, an important step that still determines the course of the company. Nowadays, Smith & Zone is the largest family business in the leather sector, with sustainability and the pursuit of quality high on the agenda, their products sold in over 60 countries. Through innovation and collaboration and a strong emphasis on sustainable entrepreneurship, it is Smith & Zone's mission to create a sustainable leather value chain. As one of the top 5 players in the leather industry, Smith & Zone challenges all stakeholders in the leather value chain to become more sustainable. Because every drop makes a difference.
Olá, sejam muito bem-vindos ao Fórum
Hello,
CSCB.
welcome to the CSCB Sustainability Forum. Thank you for being here for this online edition, which is happening live. This is a project by the Brazilian Leather Project, with the Center for the Brazilian Tanning Industry and the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. We want to foster Brazilian leather abroad. Today and tomorrow, we will have an opportunity to hear about positive experiences related to the connection between people and brands, and we want to show the importance of shared value for society. Special thanks to our sponsors. Our gold sponsors are JBS Couros and Smith & Zone, and we have our silver sponsors, Euro America and Units Brazil. We would also like to thank the members of the Center for the Brazilian Tanning Industry who are here with us today and who are a part of the Brazilian Leather Certification of Sustainability Program, or CSCB, and the members of the Brazilian Leather Project. Please remember we have translation into Portuguese and into English. To choose your language, please click Interpretation at the bottom bar of Zoom. If you have any questions to our speakers, please send your question to this email, contato@cicb.org.br. We will send these questions to the speakers after the end of the forum. You can find the email in the chat box. In the past few months, we have focused on putting together a CSCB sustainability forum based on shared values. We didn't charge anything for registration for this event, and we will have a draw of 2 leather backpacks. If you'd like to join this draw, please make a donation of any amount to the social initiatives recommended by the forum. You can use this QR code that you see on the screen check out the initiatives, make a donation, and send us the payment slip until tomorrow at noon. Today, for the CSCB Sustainability Forum, we have 3 speakers. The first one is Mr. Hugo Bethlem. Hugo is the president of Conscious Capitalism Brazil, an organization that fosters projects and initiatives connected to the way of doing business and investments in Brazil. Hugo's talk is called Conscious Capitalism, a New Perspective for the Tanning Industry. Hugo, welcome. You may begin. Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I was happy to be invited by the CICB to talk to you in this amazing event. Let me start sharing my screen. I think this is a very interesting topic, especially because we are talking about the connection between people and brands. Because at the end of the day, what does a brand mean? And what does a business mean? Because regardless of your business, the true essence of business is people. So when we connect brands to people and brands are intangible assets, we do see that it makes sense to think about this relationship. Rebecca Henderson wrote a book called Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire, which hasn't been translated into Portuguese. And she talks about 3 different points that could be seen as food for thought. And she says, well, what is capitalism? Is it one of the greatest human inventions and a huge source of prosperity? We're going to see something about that in the video by John Mack, the founder of Conscious Capitalism. Or is capitalism a threat that is about to destroy the planet and destabilize society? This also makes sense, and we are also going to approach this concept during the presentation. And the third option is, or is capitalism a combination that needs to be revisited or reimagined? And this is what conscious capitalism believes in. Capitalism is a setup that needs to be reimagined. Because right now, young people all over the world see capitalism as the virus. We have a challenge ahead of us. We have to change this idea that capitalism for shareholders has brought to us. Because oftentimes the wealth of a shareholder comes at the distress of the other stakeholders. In the future, we won't be able to sit with our kids around a fire and say, yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of value for shareholders. This is plainly not sustainable. So in 2007, Professor Raj Sisodia, one of our founders, created a survey with other students, and this research was called Firms of Endearment. In this research, in this book, they were trying to identify companies that went beyond the share of wallet or their pockets. They were able to get their share of heart. One of the companies we saw in this book was the Whole Foods Market. John Mack loved the concept. He talked to Raj Sisodia, and they founded the Conscious Capitalism movement in the US in 2008. In 2012, they released the Bible of Conscious Capitalism, which is this book, and you can find it in Portuguese on our website. If you'd like to see the version in English, you can purchase it off of Amazon. And you can download it to your Kindle if you want to. Now, in 2013, a group of Brazilians and I were not having it any longer with the way business is done. And we traveled to the US, we talked to them, and we wanted to start a Brazilian chapter of conscious capitalism. So we came back to Brazil and we did that in 2013. We've had 3 terms. I'm the president of the board. The Rio Neto is the CEO, and we are releasing 3 books. We've also created a model to have ambassadors, so anyone can join and become an ambassador. We have over 2,000 ambassadors. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it's something good. And we are going to start having regional chapters as well. However, as we said at the beginning, we are here to transform the way we make investments and do business in Brazil. We want to multiply the pillars that lead to a more humane, ethical, and sustainable management to reduce inequality. And inequality could be attributed to gender dynamics, race, LGBTQIA+ communities, compensation, and even labor conditions. Inequality has to do with this very sad picture because if you are born to your left, you are doomed to be poor. And if you are born to your right, you are doomed to be wealthy, or you will have the privilege of being wealthy. Of course, we do see people from the left transitioning to the right, and we see that if people who were born to your right who are not responsible with the privilege they have could go to the left. But it is a fact that with the structure that we have right now for shareholders, we have endless wealth being accumulated. 82% of the global wealth is controlled by only 1% of people, and Brazil is one of the 10 most unequal countries in the world. And we believe that business is good when it creates value. It is ethical when we have voluntary exchange. It is noble when it improves our existence. And it is heroic when it takes people out of poverty and creates prosperity. So let's hear what John Mack, CEO of Whole Foods and founder of Conscious Capitalism, has to do and has to say about his engagement with conscious capitalism.
So why have I gotten so deeply involved in conscious capitalism? The purpose, the higher purpose of conscious capitalism is to elevate humanity through business. Business is a force for good in this world. It does more good on this planet than all the governments and all the nonprofit organizations combined. Why is that? Because business is the value creator. We create value for customers, employees, suppliers, investors, and the communities that we're in. It's business that's been lifting humanity out of poverty. 85% of everyone alive 200 years ago lived on less than $1 a day. We've decreased that. Business, capitalism has decreased that to under 10% today. It is phenomenal. The life extension has gone from less than 30 across the world to now into the upper 70s. Again, done through business. But business can be done in a more conscious way. It can have a higher purpose. It isn't only about making money. There's nothing wrong with making money. Making money is important to business. It's like my body produces red blood cells, and if I stop producing red blood cells, I would die. It doesn't follow logically that therefore that's the higher purpose of my life. Business must make money or it will die, but it doesn't follow that the purpose of business is to make money. Rather, business has its potential for a higher purpose, and that higher purpose will fall back into the value creation that your business is doing to help people, to help the customers, to help the employees, to help the suppliers, to help the investors, to help all the major stakeholders.
We believe that conscious business should have a greater purpose, as John said. We should treat every stakeholder with equality. We should also create cultures and values that allow for the system to exist forever, and we should have conscious leaders taking care of people and the planet. But at the end of the day, purpose is a compass which we use to find our directions. Our purpose has to do with a very straightforward question. What kind of pain in society our business wants to soothe? Our strategic vision has to do with how we make money, and as John said, this is also extremely important. Now, when we join purpose to strategic vision, then we can have a very positive social impact. And this leads us to the answer of the question, what kind of difference do we have in the world, or do we create in the world? Here we have 4 different visions from CEOs about the importance of purpose. Alex Gorski from Johnson & Johnson says, "The most important lesson for me was about the importance of taking to our employees, to every employees, the idea that they do something bigger than them, and we cannot underestimate this." Now, Dan from PayPal say that the biggest insight that he's had is that purpose as a company and being lucrative and successful are compatible. Corey Berry is doing amazing work at improving Best Buy, and she says, "You lead huge potential when you connect personal purpose from your employees to corporate purpose. It helps you go in the right direction, and it helps them in the behavior they'll have. When your purpose is clear, you inspire a lot of commitment." And John Donahoe from Nike says, "It is important to talk about the values you want to foster internally, and it is important to explain them because this is paramount for your business. Nike has a long history of fighting for racial and social justice. This is the core of our mission and our purpose as a company." So forget about your ego. Don't try to be the biggest organization in the world, the greatest organization in the world, an organization that uses people and consumes natural resources. Instead, try to be the best organization for the world, serving people and taking care of the environment. Because business is not a gamble. You can't just bet on things going right or wrong. Businesses are not a machine that process people. Business is not a math equation where only one answer is right. And mainly, business is not war. And we shouldn't capture market share and capture consumers and try and destroy our competition every day. Because business is about lives and real people. Business is one of the most humane things we can do. And yes, humans are fallible, and business are too. And if they make a mistake, they should apologize. They should understand what the problem is and they should tackle it. That's how we'll get better. So take care of people and use things. Don't take care of things and use people. Because at the end of the day, the role of a conscious leader is to be able to organize, mobilize, and engage people to reach results that are in alignment with their purpose. Because at the end of the day, a business is a reflection of their people, and the people are a reflection of their leaders. So if we want to change a business, we need to change ourselves first. And here we have an acronym in the book, The Shakti Leadership, The Power of Female Leadership, written by our founder, Raj Sisodia, and an Indian woman called Nilma Bhatt. They talk about how the virtues of a leader are reflected in a company. And the acronym is selfless. And when you are selfless, you're able to find mature traits from the masculine essence and the feminine essence. You have strength, for example, and when you love and you take care, you have a mature trait of the female essence. Enthusiasm is also very important for leadership. You need to think about the long term, so LT orientation. You need flexibility. And analytics are not enough any longer. As leaders, we need spiritual intelligence, systemic intelligence, and emotional intelligence. So take care of people, and people will take care of your business. Because being a conscious leader does not mean doing things for people. It means having people in your heart and showing them the way and showing them what they should be doing. Great leaders give everyone something to believe in, not something to do. And here we have another reflection by Raj Sisodia, one of our co-founders. And we just released this book in Brazil, The Healing Organization. You can find more information about it on our website. Let's see what he has to say and what he has to say about the importance of our leaders to heal society.
Hi everyone, my name is Raj Sisodia. I'm co-founder and co-chairman of Conscious Capitalism Inc. I'm sorry I cannot be there with you in person, but I did want to share some thoughts about my more recent book, which you will be hearing about, The Healing Organization. You know, we're living through a very, very difficult time in the world right now with the pandemic and with the economic unrest and everything else that has happened. But I think this pandemic is really showing us some truths that we had lost sight of, that we really are here on this planet to take care of each other, and that business is really a way that we can do that at scale. So we should start thinking about that in a different way. You know, we're living through a very challenging time, of course, but if you look at the overall arc of history, the fact is that we are living in the most prosperous time in human history and the most peaceful time in human history. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot of suffering. There's psychological suffering that people have, and economic suffering, but also planetary suffering has been on the rise. And therefore, we need to think about what do we need to do to heal coming out of this crisis, but even beyond that. We believe that we need to heal at every level. We need to heal ourselves as individuals. We need to heal our families, our communities. We have to heal our companies and our countries. Our countries have never been more divided politically, whether it's the US or Brazil or India or the UK or many other countries. We certainly need to heal our planet and its ability to sustain life. And we need to heal the past, the present, and the future. There are many things that happened in the past that we still have not recovered from, and we have to move past that. And that's why we see all the social unrest in the world right now. So I believe that ultimately every one of us now has to be a healer. As the Dalai Lama said, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if we cannot help them, at least don't hurt them. And unfortunately, we are hurting each other a lot. So clearly the way that we work is not working. So we need to change how we think about business and how we think about work. And I believe that if you do it right, business can actually alleviate suffering and elevate joy. So the message of this book is not about healing businesses. It's not about saying we need more yoga studios or massage parlors. It is saying that business itself is fundamentally a human activity that can lead to healing. If we do it right, if we are doing business in order to care for each other, then we will in fact create healing. So if you do it right, business can be a place of healing for those who work there. They can leave at the end of the day physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and socially in a better place. It can be a source of healing for those we serve, our customers, our communities, and it can be a force for healing in society. We can show how we come together despite our differences to really do something extraordinary. And ultimately, whether you have a healing business or a business that causes suffering depends on the leaders. The leaders set the tone, because if you are not healed as a human being, as a leader, then you will inflict suffering on others. So it all starts with the leaders.
Por isso, o que nós dizemos é que
That is why we say that the problem we have on this planet is not a sustainability, but a lack of conscience. And we think that this should be a sustainable development goal for the next 10 years. And ODS, or actually SDG number 0, because before any of the other ones, we should make sure that initiatives to end poverty, foster prosperity and well-being for everyone, protect the environment, and face climate change will be priorities for the next 10 years. And we've already wasted 5 years because these were published in 2015, but we still have 10 years ahead of us. The pandemic has taught us digital use very quickly, and maybe it will help us put into place the SDGs in a quicker way. In the past, when we created this, we talked about people, planet, and profit. However, this has changed and evolved. Now we have people, planet, and purpose. Now profit is just a consequence of the purpose pillar. And we can connect that to the letters that have been the foundation of 2020, ESG. In conscious capitalism, we have been saying that the environmental ecosystem has to do with the planet pillar, social impact has to do with the people pillar, and governance has to do with the purpose pillar. However, we always say that these acronyms should go GSE because it is only with very clear, very robust governance from businesses with a purpose and with values, and especially with conscious leaders, that investments will be truly made well in society and the environment. That is why a campaign from Asklin a while ago talked about ASAP, as sustainable as possible, as soon as possible. And we believe that the CSCB certificate and this event go to show that. This is an initiative to make sure we have sustainable processes in the production chain for labor. So we need to be as sustainable as possible, as soon as possible. Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, in 2020, in January, before we started quarantining, started talking about capitalism for stakeholders, for a more coherent and sustainable world. And now for 2021, he is talking about the Great Reset. This is a commitment for us to get together and build the foundation of our economic and social system urgently to have a more just and sustainable future. If you believe in that, press the button with me and let's reset this system. Now, with this initiative in September, we started the initiative of the Imperative 21. So in 2021, it is imperative for us to redefine capitalism. We had the coronavirus pandemic, the economic crisis, and social injustices on the rise, and we clearly saw that this system is unfair. It rewards the maximization of wealth, prioritizing individualism, and this can no longer be the case. We need to generate value for every stakeholder. Our economy will not be developed at its full potential for people and the planet in a system that is not in alignment and that creates adverse standards. The future is for everyone, and we need to build a future where people are able to work with dignity and to take care of themselves and the people they love. We need a healthy planet, and we need economies that are thriving. For that, we need to reimagine and redesign our economic system. This is something that all of us should do in the long term. As John Shar would say, the future is not only a destination, but it is something we are creating. Critical error, inequality, lack of safety, instability. Is this the future we want? Focusing only on shareholders has not worked well. So what now? What are we going to do? Are we going to step back? Are we going to rebel? Or are we going to reimagine and redefine our system and our economy? Creating with interdependence, investing in structural change, taking into account every stakeholder, respecting people and the planet. This is the foundation to change an economic system. Shared well-being and a healthy planet. So let's redefine things together. Let's build a new cooperative system together.
E eu trago como reflexão final a história de Ernest Shackleton. Quem não leu, eu recomendo.
I would like to share the story of Ernest Shackleton, and I do recommend the book The Amazing Travel from Shackleton. He went on a trip with a group he had chosen, and I do recommend you read the note that he used to choose his men, and transparency is what made sure everyone there would survive. He wanted to go to the South Pole, but his ship got stuck in ice one day before they could get to their destination. And it took them 2 years to be able to leave this place. And from this specific goal, getting to the South Pole, he pivoted his goal to an endless target. His goal became to make sure that everyone was able to go home alive, and they were able to do it 2 years later. This is what a leader is about. A leader needs to be able to change their goals to save lives. That is why connecting people to brands is so important. So I have an invitation for you. As of tomorrow, when you go into your office or when you work from home, always go into it with your hearts and with your minds. And during the pandemic, do not forget your masks. Take care of yourself to also take care of those around you. I would like to thank the CSCB for inviting me to be here. Here you have my contact info, so if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or on other social media, I'll be happy to have you there. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hugo. A more humane, ethical, and sustainable management is very important for every industry, and this is applicable to the leather industry as well as to the whole chain in our industry. Thank you very much for being here and for sharing your experience and engagement with conscious capitalism. Now, the CSCB Sustainability Forum welcomes someone who is well acknowledged in the tanning industry and who's been with us before. We have Mr. Kim Sena, the Sustainability Manager at JBS Couros. He's going to talk about a new topic today. He has been working on environmentally friendly solutions for the tanning industry, and he was responsible for the creation of the Kind Leather platform and the traceability platform called JBS 360. His talk is about traceability and sustainability in the tanning industry through science. You may begin, Mr. Sena.
Thank you, Rogério. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me start by sharing my screen. Good morning, everyone. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here to bring a different topic and to discuss sustainability in the world of leather. Of course, it's an important matter for the entire world, and we are no different. Let me just make this statement. What's the cost of a product? A shirt in this example. We have always dealt with this issue very pragmatically. In the old capitalism ways, we would reduce everything to economic value, to price. As humankind, we're faced with a different reality. Conscious consumers also takes other costs into account, such as social and environmental costs. We have evolved exponentially, and I mean the whole human race, and we are always based ourselves on the three pillars of sustainability: social equity, economic viability, and environmental protection. Of course, this is a simplistic model. The challenge is way more comprehensive. You have to have politics involved to make things happen, but these three principles can help us guide whatever the planet does or the nations themselves do to address historic problems. I'll be basing my presentation on these two pillars, most importantly on environmental and social pillars. This is basic conditions to evolve the other two. Let me start with the environmental aspect. We've had a couple of crises in the 21st century. The global population is still growing rapidly. The growth rate is going down, but it will still be growing. And the urbanization rate is very high. The first half of the 21st century will be the first time in history in which you have most of the world's population in urban areas. That was true to some developed countries, but this can be applied to the entire global population. Of course, there are several implications thereof. You have more health-related concerns, people live longer. At the same time, you have more consumption. And for developing nations, you stress public services, including waste management. The disparities increase in urban areas, and services can be stressed out to the point of they no longer work. This is just an example of global surveys indicate that the population's perception indicate plastic waste as the second largest environmental problem in the world, and followed by global warming, and water pollution would come third. You know that because you just go to the beach and you can see it with your own eyes. Plastic remains a challenge to humankind. These are important numbers. 1/3 of plastic waste are poorly managed. 75% of plastics as of the 1950s is waste. Most of it is still there, somewhere in the ocean or anywhere else on the planet. My intention is to reflect about solid waste, not only plastic. Plastic is not the only culprit. Of course, since single use, it becomes the most evident problem. But we have problems in all other chains. We generate a lot of waste in producing materials overall. There are residues. And when we talk about sustainability, we have to address as how do we address solid waste in our own industries? We're not under the scrutiny of environmentalists worldwide, but we must manage waste sustainably. We have the three main pillars. They're very famous. Reduce as the most important one, reduce consumption, to question yourself, do I need as many units of the same product? These three pillars can be expanded to 9. This is just a summary. There are even pillars that come before those. Refuse to use it. Reducing is, of course, the best approach. Being simplistic, of course, you can make a difference. And reducing consumption involves the proportional use of leather. How can I be more efficient in using the same area? Have a better use, and therefore reducing waste. Reuse has to do with what we do. Leather is a durable good. It can be fixed or repaired. Older generations have a hard time fixing things or reshape a product, or just because it's cheap, you can simply replace it. But the fashion industry has been rethinking the impacts to the planet. So the leather has a lot to do with it. It's a durable good. It can be reused. And recycling, the third and last resort. If it's not working to reduce or reuse, you can recycle it. There are different maturity levels depending on the different economies. Recycling or redefining it, you can properly manage waste. But let me focus first on reducing. Let me give you an example of what our company has been doing. Kind Leather aims at rethinking the way we use the area. We cut the areas that are less used because of its geometric characteristics, or either because they're concentrated for some applications for ectoparasites, for example, and that's why they are discarded early on in the process. And they are used as raw material for other industries or the pharmaceutical industry to produce gelatin. And they're not used in the entire production line. And then they would become those waste piles we've seen in the previous slide. When we digitalize the leather piece for the auto cutting machine, a research partner did this, Electra. They identified these areas for the conventional leather and kind leather. When you have an optimized piece, optimized to reduce the higher concentrated area for defects, you had a cleaner area, you will generate less waste, and you will have a cleaner chain overall. Yet another illustration of this example. This is for furniture on the left. It's evident, especially in larger pieces, these panels, you have major losses on the extremities because of the geometry per se. When you have kind leather, you actually optimize the area. The cuts are already on the brink or on the brink of that piece. And it has to do with the economic pillar as well. You reduce waste, you have better use. The yield is greater. It's a win-win. It's either environmental or economic. The benefits are there. We're talking about solid waste first. What are the top challenges for humankind today? Okay, solid waste is one of them. The ozone layer, water pollution, water toxicity, air toxicity, global warming. We do have several challenges ahead of us. Anything that we do must address, not everything, but mapping things out to try in some shape or form to move forward. It's very difficult to determine what's more important. We have to have a cleaner chain overall. And there's the question, what is the environmental impact of any given product? That's the first question we have to ask ourselves. The best way to address is to come up with the life cycle assessment to determine what the environmental impact of a product is. The life cycle assessment, it's all about that. It assesses raw material extraction all the way to any given point in the process. What is the environmental impact of the product? I'm talking about one step in the process. Let's first understand what the product life cycle, extracting the raw material, processing, manufacturing, transportation. If I map the chain all the way to the transportation phase, I have that assessment that's called from cradle to the gate. I can go forward. I can include trading, use, and waste management. And then I'll have from cradle to tomb, to the grave. I can have a more modern concept, which is from cradle to cradle, from birth to birth. You have to rethink the entire chain, whether it can be reused in the industry, and then the economy will actually move around. I used this example at another presentation, but I think it's very interesting to understand what a life cycle assessment is. This is for the lactic acid production chain. But looking at just one metric, that's the global warming potential. The life cycle assessment measures when you have a sugarcane field, you have photosynthesis, it's absorbing CO2, that's credit. But to harvest, I emit it, and to transport as well. I ended up releasing CO2 or absorbing CO2 depending on the process or the type of energy source I resort to. Limestone extraction, lime, transportation. I measured everything. What's the efficiency on my machines? What's the destination of that waste? How I store, and who do I send my end product to? Where is that consumer? Or are they far? Am I going to use more fuel? By gathering this data, you can come up with mathematical models using specific software, and then you calculate the environmental impact according to the EPD rules. That's the product category rule. These are established methodology so that you can standardize the results, and then you can compare them, and then they'll become guidelines. All right, having said that, we decided to actually address the environmental impact of our product, measure it through the life cycle assessment. First, you have to define the limits of the system. You have to define what the limits of the systems are. Otherwise, it would be an endless exercise in what we're doing. I'll start at the farm, where the animal came from, all the way to tannery number 3, that the finished leather tannery. If I don't define that, and then what's the impact of the family that work on the farm? Is that included? No, it's not. It's not within the limits of the system. It has to be very clear right off the bat. Otherwise, it's going to be an endless exercise, as I said. In our study, we started at the farm all the way to the finished leather tannery. This is a very extensive work required to gather data from the farm. We are a verticalized company. We can have information about the meatpacking industry all the way to the farm, what they do. What does leather represent as to the weight of the animal and the economic value of several products? Because by allocating these values, you can determine what the environmental impact is from the farm all to the way to the tannery. We started with sports shoes, and we compared that to another study conducted by one of our partners, Asia 10. It's a plant in China. They didn't use any type of optimizations, research on reducing chemicals to the minimal levels. This formula had no optimizations, and they tried to reduce the amount of chemicals. And now we do have optimized formulations and kind leather, and we adopted this methodology now. As far as allocation goes, the environmental impact on the life of the animal, enteric, fermentation, methane, it's relevant, it should be taken into account. It's not allocated to beef only. It's allocated to products and byproducts according to pre-established and harmonized rules so that we can properly allocate these categories. There's a standard table, but you can actually calculate how these items are allocated, taking into account the reality of 2019 with the current leather price, how much that leather would represent in the total weight of the animal, how much or how fair this allocation is. It's important to calculate that with the living animal because the leather chain is not carbon intense. It changes dramatically when you do that from beef and leather. The environmental impact will change dramatically. We measured depending on the category of the environmental impact. We do not attribute weights, priorities. We measure everything. And then we'll understand where you have more room for improvement, whether we are doing even better than the panel. And these are the results. When we got the before and after picture, we realized that we had major reduction in the amount of energy, waste generated, 92% reduction for the entire process, along the lines of what we had been saying before. Thinking about the picture of the amount of waste generated in a tannery and how much reduction you can achieve by using kind leather. And for the environmental impact indicators per se, numbers calculated by the software, because in the past you had a balance. How much you use energy. These are calculated models according to the standardization rules. These numbers are significant, more important than the reduction per se. This is just a snapshot. The most important thing is to have these figures to make that life cycle assessment. It's valuable information to several stakeholders. Leaders can define strategic guidelines for sustainability and also for R&D to develop more sustainable products, purchasing, to purchase products that will generate the least amount of environmental impact. It's not a matter of comparing results only, but rather further analyzing numbers. I'll give you some other examples. When you measure the different categories of environmental impact, what's more important? In orange, this is cattle raising. Meat packing, what comes upstream, the tannery. It's very relevant. Eutrophication, nutrients released on water sources, how they can create hypoxia, the lack of oxygen, and the death of all marine life. GWP, the global warming potential, more than 50%, is attributed to previous steps. That's why I have to properly allocate and make that calculation right. Now we have the possibility of diving down to determine what step generates the most impact or uses more energy. What piece of equipment is less efficient, energetically speaking? And then you can work towards reducing the total environmental impact. Let me move on to the social impact. I was not supposed to talk about social according to the title of my presentation. However, I thought it would be a mistake not to talk about it. When we talk about sustainability, we have to talk about the social pillar. Let me give you some context. Just last week, we introduced Leather Labs, our e-shopping for leather. We work on giving information about the content, its sustainability. We'll have courses free of charge. We'll be selling leather to give access to leather to small producers. They can all purchase online. And we'll have manufactured products too. This is the type of information. Leatherlabs.com, that's the URL. Let me focus on the social side of Leather Labs now. We wanted to start by providing significant social impact to these communities that actually need it. We established a partnership with Orienta Vida. It's an income generation project, trains and create jobs to women in vulnerable situations right here in the state of São Paulo.
nome é Celeste Chad, eu nasci em Aparecida, cidade vizinha aqui de Putim. Minha família veio toda do Líbano para Aparecida e ficou ali em torno daquele comércio religioso que existe até hoje. Eu me casei em 87 e vim morar em Putim. E Putim foi emancipado poucos anos depois e cresceu desordenadamente. É uma cidade cheia de problemas. E quando a gente viu que a cidade estava crescendo dessa maneira, a gente tinha duas possibilidades: mudar para uma cidade melhor ou ficar aqui e fazer alguma coisa. E criamos Orienta a Vida em 99, 21 anos. Quando a gente criou Orienta a Vida, a ideia era capacitar e gerar renda para essas mulheres através do trabalho delas.
A gente não tem como falar da ONG e não se emocionar, né? Eu entrei aqui nos piores momentos, sim, da minha vida. Aí foi onde eu aprendi a abordar e foi daí que foi crescendo a relação entre eu e a ONG.
Meu nome é Jaqueline, eu tenho 33 anos e eu comecei bem novinha aqui na ONG e não sabia fazer exatamente nada, não sabia nem colocar a linha na agulha, aprendi tudo aqui e hoje eu ensino a fazer o bordado.
Eu trabalhava em outros tipos de serviço e era tipo de serviço de roça, corte de cana, né? Aí eu vim parar aqui na ONG. Tudo que eu sei hoje eu aprendi aqui, costurar, bordar, parte de acabamento. E está sendo muito importante para mim, né? Trabalhar aqui.
Nós somos procurados por uma marca chamada Leather Labs, que é uma marca que está sendo lançada agora, um produto novo em couro. E a gente não tinha essa mão de obra. E aí, essa marca nasceu com um propósito super bacana, que além de ter responsabilidade ambiental, ela queria nascer já com responsabilidade social. Então, qual é a nossa ideia hoje com a Leather Labs? Eles nos equiparam em maquinário, nos equiparam em capacitação às mulheres, e a gente quer, em 5 anos, chegar numa parceria junto com uma outra empresa financeira, a ter 650 mulheres em produção. A gente tem experiência em trabalhar com veludo, seda, malha, todo tipo de tecido e a gente sempre procura trabalhar com novos materiais. Trabalhar com couro vai ser um desafio, mas a gente sabe que a gente vai aprender e vai ficar tão bom logo. E o mais bacana é trabalhar com kind leather, que é um couro sustentável. Então assim, a gente está super feliz com esse projeto.
Voltando aqui, gente.
Okay, I'm back. Let me tell you a little bit more about the project. This was just this year. It was finalized this year. We supplied the machinery and then we trained them. And of course, we provided selling skills. There's no point in giving machines and train them how to do it, but we have to have a channel to sell, because in the end, you won't be generating any income. So there's no point in doing halfway through. So we provided all the necessary equipment, sewing machines, so that they could work with leather. Celeste said that they had been working with many different types of fabric, but leather is something different. We trained 6 people first. They'll be teachers, trainers. It started out at STIHL. On a weekly basis, a specialist comes to correct every step of the process. It's some sort of consulting service to speed up their learning process and then selling it. On Leather Labs, they can sell the products. They are the only Disney licensed craftspeople. They were doing it with other materials. They can produce aprons, and they'll be soon introducing the bags. They're very excited about it. This is just a picture of a display just to promote the project per se. And then that's a great segue to traceability, which is my next topic on the agenda. This is the QR code. If your cell phone is handy, you can check it. It's has a lot to do with what I'm talking about. I'll explain what that is shortly. JBS 360, which is our environmental traceability, is to make sure that leather does not come from deforested areas. It's a social environmental responsibility tool to make sure that this leather does not come from areas that resort to slavery. You can find out what tannery, what meat packers, and the farms involved in that leather. So you have the entire chain. When we started the project with Orienta Vida, Leather for Good, we decided to include social traceability. Why not create a system that gives consumers information about the people's lives they're impacting? You can purchase a product from any regular company, but you're purchasing a product from an NGO that is helping people out, training them out, generating income. We put that system in place that combines the two pieces of information: a handbag, an apron, any product, actually. You can gather the JBS 360 information, where the leather comes from, the farms where those animals came from, but also the lives that were impacted. Who put their hands on that product? There will be a short video telling a little bit of their stories and sharing that story with everyone. Using this QR code, you can have access to this information. Any product, this is Orienta Vida product, you have both social and environmental traceability. All right, folks, this is all I had to say today. These are some of our environmental initiatives, how we're using science to pave the way through sustainability and also our social responsibility efforts. Thank you. I would like to thank CSCB, CSICB for inviting me. Have a good day. Hi, Kim. It's always a pleasure to hear you. You know JBS in and out. These results are important not only for your company, but for the entire industry. It can become a benchmark for all our initiatives. We are live with the CSCB Sustainability Forum 2020, conducted by Brazilian Leather, an initiative of CICB and Apex-Brasil to promote Brazilian leather abroad. We will be rafting leather backpacks for those of you who donate to one of these social initiative organizations. More information on our website. We'd like to thank our gold sponsors, JBS Couros and Smith & Zoon, and our silver sponsors, Euromeric and Units Brazil. We'll now focus on people management. Renata Brill Thum, responsible for Endo Marketing in STIHL. People at the focus of culture and organizational results at STIHL. Renata is a PR. She's been working for STIHL for over 6 years. The company regarded as one of the best places to work in Brazil. You may have the floor now, Renata. Over to you.
I hope you can hear me well. First, I would like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to be here. It's very interesting for STIHL to be a part of this conversation and to share a little bit about our story and our journey of appreciating people and still meeting our goals. I know we won't have any time for questions and answers, but if you have any questions for me by the end of the presentation, you have my contact info. So let me tell you a little bit about STIHL. We are a family-owned business founded in 1926 by Mr. Andreas Stilt in Germany. And when he founded our company, he wanted to make the lives of farm workers easier, or at least the lives of people who lived in the countryside. He was the one who invented the chainsaw. And right now, of course, we have a lot of technology for that. We have low noise emissions, we have low gases emissions. Now, and still, in our culture, often and truly values quality, not only in services and products, but in our behavior. And we appreciate the quality of the delivery of services. This is a little bit of our portfolio. We have portable, motorized tools that cater to many different industries. We have disc cutters, we have chainsaws, we have sprayers. And sprayers were sold very often this year, especially because of COVID-19, because of sanitation purposes. So these are some of the options on our portfolio. However, we also sell services that are connected to products. We have specialized services being provided. This is our revenue. We had 3.9 billion euros in 2019. And this has been a very good year for our company. And not only for the company, but for the whole group. We have plants in Germany, the US, Brazil, Switzerland, Austria, China, and the Philippines. Our networks includes 53,000 resellers. And we are in over 160 countries. But let's focus on Brazil. STIHL Brazil is located in São Leopoldo, in Rio Grande do Sul. We chose this city because it is the birthplace of German immigration to Brazil. We've been here for over 45 years. We started downtown and then we moved to the headquarters we have right now. We also launched a distribution center in São Paulo in 2020, and it is the first time we go from the south to the southeast of Brazil. We chose to have this distribution center in São Paulo because of logistics. We have over 2,800 employees, and we hired a lot of people in 2020 because of an increase in production and sales. So this has been a very different year. Because of COVID-19, we ended up hiring 500 people. We have these certificates from the ISOs, and we have the OEA as well. Now, I was hearing the previous speakers, and they were talking about the importance of people and the strength that there is in purpose. And in Brazil, we truly believe in the power of people. Because we can buy machinery, but we can't buy people. We need people. And it is people who are going to lead us to great results. Simon Sinek says, employees are people and clients are people. And if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And we take that to our heart. We use climate surveys to have a bird's eye overview of how our employees are feeling in our environment. We want to understand our leaders and we want to understand how we can get better. We've been doing that for over 17 years. In 2017, we started a collaboration with the Great Place to Work, an institute we can find in a number of countries. They have yearly surveys to understand how things are going in our work environment. Since 2017, we've been in the best places to work in Rio Grande do Sul in the category of big companies with over 1,000 employees. And since last year, we've also appeared in the Brazilian list. We are among the best in Brazil for large-sized businesses. But we always say that this award and being in this ranking is not our goal. It is not why we use this survey. We use this survey because we truly want to understand how people feel in our work environment. For them to have great performance and for them to deliver on what they have to deliver, we need a great work environment. In the past, we would say that people should leave their problems at the door when they come into the company, but this is not how it works. Employees are human beings. They are not just a number, they are not just an ID. That is why we use this survey, and that is why we keep a close look on people. This is the methodology that we use with the GPTW. We have credibility, respect, impartiality, pride, and collaboration. Now, when we talk about the first three, they are about trust and they are about leadership. They have a lot to do with what Hugo said in the first talk. We need leaders who are protagonists, who engage people, who take care of people. And people need to look at these leaders and believe them and see integrity and truth. People also need to feel respected and to feel like things are fair. So these three pillars are extremely important for us to build a foundation of trust. And we know that any relationship that lacks trust is shaken. And it is very hard to earn someone's trust, but it's extremely hard to re-earn it once we lose it. So we focus on these three aspects. Then we have pride. Pride has to do with how people look at the company and how they see themselves in the company. And finally, we have collaboration, which has to do with their relationship with their peers. Our approach is very focused on these 5 aspects. And within each one of these 5 elements, we try to go into practice and understand how to develop credibility, respect, impartiality, pride, and collaboration within the company. So let me talk about our cultural practices. We need to inspire employees. We need to say the truth. We need to listen to people. And this is very important. Saying everything is not enough. We need to listen to people. We also need to thank them for the work they do. We need to develop them as professionals, and we need to take care of them and their families. We also need to hire people based on our culture. We need to celebrate our accomplishments, and we need to share our results. So these are 9 cultural practices which we use as a foundation for our projects, internal processes, and HR programs. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about these from now on. And this is our HR strategy. We have 4 big pillars: attracting, managing, developing, and complying with the STIHL culture. You will see in a bit that we have a very strong culture focused on quality. However, at the same time, we need a proper labor environment, work environment, that allows for people to develop. So these are the 4 pillars we use to develop our processes. When it comes to culture, the STIHL group has a specific corporate culture that is focused on performance and on being a role model. That is why quality is always key for us. We need to create quality. Quality is not just a department, it is a philosophy. So we need to have focus on performance. Of course, we focus on profit as well, but we do all of that looking at people and working with people. We also care about the environment and about sustainability. That is why the second item is environment and energy. We have a number of internal projects for that. And we have the world of business. This has to do with the economy, with welcoming people with disabilities, with having a safe work environment, etc. Now, these pillars have not changed dramatically in the past few years, but we felt a need to communicate them better to people. That is why in 2016 we released the Working Together program. These are simple initiatives on how to put all of that into practice in our daily lives. Because we have 6 pillars, and we wanted to figure out how to explain to a plant operator that he needs collaboration with other people in his daily operations. And we decided to do it in a fun way. So we hired a theater company, and they were able to develop these guidelines in our monthly meetings with the plants and with the management. And they did it in a theater fashion. That is how we were able to have a more fun approach, to have everyone understand that we have to work together and we have to think of ourselves as a team that is creating value together, always focused on our business, but always prioritizing people's health. And we need to think about the challenges ahead of us and how we are going to tackle them together. And this is where leadership comes in. Hugo was talking about this in depth. Without engaged leaders who truly buy into our purpose, it is very unlikely that we'll be able to convey that to the other 2,700 employees. So STIHL has a very robust program for leadership. It is called Evolve or Evoluir. So we want to capture these needs and we want to understand the things we need the most in specific departments. We also want to figure out how to help these leaders develop their teams because they are managing people and people are the ones who bring us results. So leaders need to be in alignment with our purpose and with our practice. If the company says something, but the leader does the opposite, it's not going to work. Leaders are protagonists in Brazil, and we strive for that every year. Achieving that is not easy, but we have to persevere. And we usually have in-person meetings. Of course, this year we were not able to do that because of the insane things that happened as of March. That is why we held 2 online events. Of course, we also understood they were burdened and they were going through a tough time, both personally and professionally. But it was very interesting to see that they were grateful for the opportunity of getting to talk about important topics online. And they felt embraced. They felt that, yes, they are employees and they are human beings, but they have a very important role to play in our company, and they appreciated that we acknowledge that. They are very important for us, and it is through leaders that we are able to develop our company. In one of the previous slides, we also saw the pillar of attracting talents. We want to attract good people. We want to attract talented people. However, right now we have a goal of having 75% of our positions being filled by people who already work for us. Let me tell you why. Yes, we know that it's very important for us to change the people we have working for us and that professionals from the outside are welcome. But the people already working for us already know the company and they want to grow with us. They want to develop their skills. They want to work on other projects and they already fit into our culture. So why not? Why not working on internal recruitment and why not giving opportunities to people who are already on the inside? That is why we have a very robust internal recruitment process. We work on promotions as well. And this is very good for us because we also have savings and it is also about sustainability because we don't have to resort to external consultancy firms. We are able to cut down on costs. And even when we change someone from one position into another department, they already know the people they are working with and they know the STIHL culture. So it makes it easier for us. When it comes to integration, whenever we welcome new employees who were working for other companies before they joined us, we know that it takes us around 4 weeks for the onboarding process. So they spend a week basically getting to know people and processes so that when they are truly starting to work, they already know what they can and cannot do, what our culture is about, and how to deal with it. So yes, when they start working at their position, they will learn what they have to do specifically, but they will already know about the company and they will feel at home. That's what we want. So we have these days for the onboarding process. And of course, it requires an investment and it requires some time, but HR and ourselves believe that this is very good in the long term. We also have an internship program. As I said at the beginning, we are a family-owned company, a German company. However, we also see a new generation going into the workforce, and we need to understand these new generation, these new members of the new generation. They are often extremely talented and very knowledgeable, but we also need to understand them to adapt to the way they communicate. That is why this year we started approaching interns in a different way and we started adapting our communications to what makes sense to them. And oftentimes we end up hiring interns. They usually know a lot about our business. They spend 2 years here in the internship and they usually apply to another position and they are officially hired by the end of this process. And this is great for us. And whenever we talk about attracting people, of course, we need to talk about developing these people. And I decided to bring you a few pictures in this part of the presentation to show you how we do it in our day-to-day lives. Developing people is a big pillar for us in HR. That is why we have the internship program, the formal education program, and the language acquisition program. This year, we also launched a distance learning project, especially because of COVID. We already wanted to do it, but we had to accelerate this process in 2020 because we were unable to meet in person. We've launched this platform and it's interesting to see how people are starting to adopt it. We also work with what we call the young apprentices. We have a mechatronic project whereby we recruit 12 people who are going to go through a vocational training in mechatronics. This is a kind of knowledge that we do need for certain departments, and it's hard to find these people in the workforce, and it's hard to find people who have this kind of knowledge. So we created a partnership, a collaboration between Brazil, Germany, and Senai to create a vocational training for mechatronics. So our 12 employees are able to study that and cater to the need we have internally. Now, our students and our employees in the internship program also come up with a project. And this is a win-win situation because it is very interesting for both sides because they try to solve a problem that we have at STIHL. We also have a performance assessment or evaluation program, and we have a program for talents and succession. In the performance evaluation, we are able to find gaps and know exactly where people need to improve. And we always think about self-development and about what these people can do to be better. The company does not need to offer everything to employees on a silver plate. Employees also need self-improvement and they need to work on their development. In the performance evaluation, we are able to show them in the right direction. And the talents and succession program has to do with what I said at the beginning. We save time in recruitment. When we know the talents that we have within our company, we are oftentimes able to fill a position with the people who already work for us. So these are some of the initiatives we have when it comes to people development. And there's something else that's really important in development, communications. More and more, we are able to access information quickly. And we have seen in the past few years that transparency is key. It may be hard, it may be tricky, but we need to say things. And we just need to figure out when, how, where, and to whom. And in addition to communicating to people, we also need to listen to people. And we have a mural, a board. And you may be thinking that this is old technology, and it is. But some of these panels are scattered throughout our facilities. And we always update them every week with everything they should know and everything they should be able to do if needed. That is why we update it weekly. We also have a number of workers who have disabilities and may be deaf or hard of hearing. In this case, for them to understand what we have on our boards, we have been translating everything we put on the boards into sign language, Brazilian Sign Language. And we post these videos to the internet. This is a show of respect and inclusion because we want our deaf and hard of hearing employees to be able to understand everything that we communicate. We also have an app for internal communication. And as I said, the pandemic has brought about a number of opportunities for us. In the past, we had an app for our leaders. But since the beginning of this year, we felt that we needed to be able to get in touch with these people, with everyone in the company, in a more official way. And when they were on vacation, or actually when they were working from home, we didn't have a non-intrusive way of talking to them, so we decided to have an app for everyone. And in September, we added a new feature called Your Space. And in their space, they can post whatever they want. They can talk about the projects they are working on, their achievements, their developments, and this creates a lot of interaction. And it is about becoming a protagonist. We wanted to give them voice, and we wanted to be able to hear them. This is really good. We've achieved over 85% of adherence. And we don't offer them a smartphone, we don't offer them a special Wi-Fi connection, but we have 85% of employees using this app because they want to be there and they want to know what's going on. This is an important channel for that. We also work on our leaders, and we understand that oftentimes leaders need to understand what is going on first so that they buy into the idea and they are able to convey it to the teams. And posters or emails are useless at the end of the day if our leaders don't truly believe in the idea. So we have a segment specifically for them, and we invest a lot in communications because we need to respect people, we need to be transparent, we need to listen to people, and we need to make them protagonists. Now, speaking of listening to people, we have the Great Place to Work survey, as I said, but that is not the only one we have, or the only survey we have. We have other surveys and polls throughout the year because we know that our employees can tell us where we could get better and the opportunities that are in front of us. So whenever we have an event, for example, we ask people how we could have been better. And it's very simple. We have two tablets and we just, take them around the plants to ask people to answer the survey. It is even easier now with the app. And this gives us a picture, and it shows us that sometimes at very low costs or at no costs at all, we can just implement some changes and we can offer a better experience for them. We also have specific surveys on customer service or the service that they receive from IT or what they expect from the business department or the sales department. And every time we start a survey, we also foster engagement and there are expectations involved. So we need to tell people about the results after the survey is done. This year, by the end of April, we had created a survey for COVID-19 because we wanted to understand how COVID-19 had impacted our employees' daily lives, not only for business, but for their personal lives as well. We had over 1,300 respondents. The survey was in the app. People just had to click on a link and answer it. 1,300 is great. It was over 50% of our employees at the time, and they felt cared for. 92% of them were happy about the way STIHL was dealing with the pandemic. That was great for us to have an idea of how they were feeling. And we were talking about caring for people. As I said at the beginning, in the past, we would expect people to leave their problems outside the door when they came into the company, but this has changed. We have a good compensation package, but it doesn't stop there. We care for people and we care for their families. So at the beginning of this year, we had a vaccination program, which we had to interrupt because of COVID-19, because it was taking place in the end of March. However, we reorganized everything and we created a drive-through structure so that people could register, have a scheduled slot of time, and come to the vaccination campaign through a drive-through facility. Once again, we see that we just adapted and we talked to our employees and we found another way to do things. It is also important to talk about the pregnancy program. We have a lot of mothers in our list of employees, and we have a lot of employees who become fathers. And we know that pregnancy and early childhood is a very important part of people's lives. So we've created a better program to work with these wives and these female employees for them to take better care of themselves and of their babies. And for the fathers who work for us are also able to support them. We know that this is a very important time in people's lives. We are also very, very strict on safe behavior. We work on whatever is safe, and we always talk about what we expect from people when it comes to that. We want them to go back to their homes safe and well. So every week we have a new poster about safety on our panels, on our boards. We have a Life Quality Center. In the Life Quality Center, we have a partnership with 2 clinics with psychologists, therapists, nutrition experts, couples therapists, because we want to offer support to our employees, not only for themselves, but for their families as well. And we are looking at these people, not as employees. We also have a restaurant on site. And people would ask for the restaurant that caters to us, to the catering service, to sell meals and to sell takeaway meals. And it's oftentimes simple to do it, and we did. We did it. We talked to the restaurant, and we were able to offer that. Let me give you a few more examples. Because of COVID-19, a lot of families asked for support from the Quality of Life Center. They came to the center and they said, I have no idea what to do with my kids. I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling stressed. My husband's feeling stressed. I hadn't spent so much time with my family in a long time. So this came up in our COVID-19 survey. And we assessed what we could do to help these people. So we started posting on our app with very simple tips. And these are initiatives that create a lot of value at no cost. So we talked to our partners at the Quality of Life Center, and we asked them to send us videos or tips about how to structure a routine at home, or what kind of food to eat to boost immunity, or what kind of play or what kind of activity to promote in your home with your kids. And we knew that this was not an easy time for many of our employees. Some were working from home, but some were risking their lives and coming to work, and we couldn't just ignore what they were saying was important. We are also focused on our community. We have a sense of social responsibility and social accountability. We have social and environmental initiatives, and in 2020, we made a number of donations. For example, we donated food packages with basic items, and the food bank asked for our help, and we donated over 1,200 basic items packages. Now, with another organization, we also built face shields to distribute to hospitals and healthcare practitioners. And when we were delivering the food packages, some of our employees were volunteers and they were able to go to these communities. Of course, we followed the safety protocols. We're able to recycle 95% of our waste, and a lot of these families are able to help us with the recycling, which means they get a source of income from it. These are just some of our social projects. We are always focused on our society, and we try to relay this value to our employees and to the members of our communities. Here I would like to share a little bit about the Idea Plus program. Through the Idea Plus program, Employees can talk about the ideas they have and how to cut down on costs, and this, of course, has a positive impact for the company. And every year, we were thinking about incentives programs or rewards programs so that people would contribute more often with their ideas. And since last year, we decided that we would have a draw and the award would be a car, or the reward would be a car. And once again, it works both ways. You know, it's good for the company and it's good for the workers. We get people engaged and we get them motivated to look at processes and to come up with ideas of how to make them better. And for the company, what we spend on this car is worth it if we think about everything that we get back from this initiative. So we can do this for workers and we can reap the benefits. It's sustainable. We also had a campaign where people would tell us their stories. They would tell us their stories with still. I would take their picture and we would show it to everyone else. And it's about belonging, you know, and we saw beautiful stories. This is also an initiative that brings people in and that makes them feel a part of the process. We also see the values that we have in common and how they translate these values with their story with the company. We also have the Pink October and the Blue November initiatives. These entail no cost, but we just try and engage people and we ask them to come to work in pink or in blue. And we have healthcare workers delivering talks on these important topics. We release everything in our channels, and it's a very interesting process. And we see that people like to see themselves represented and they are proud of being a part of it. Here on this picture about our benefits, we see Mr. Abraão. And we feel like sometimes people don't truly understand the value of a certain benefit and how these benefits impact everyone. And that is why we ask for people's testimonials. They talk about why they appreciate our restaurant or why they appreciate our corporate transportation service. That is why we talk about these services and about these initiatives on our boards. These are some initiatives that drive belonging and pride. We see that people can relate to that. It really works. Here we see some more pictures of moments when we were celebrating, acknowledging, and boosting pride. For example, at the top, we see a colleague who has been at the company for a long time, who had been at the company for a long time, but she was leaving the company. And we just put together, you know, a small party for her because we want to acknowledge everything that she's done for the company because she came to work every day for a long time. We need to celebrate that kind of thing. We need people to understand that without them, we wouldn't be able to reach our goals and we wouldn't be able to offer high quality products. That is what we want to show through our behavior. We want to convey the message that people have agency and they are the ones responsible for these results. This is our end of the year party. We have this strong thing in our culture of celebrating things. And we don't have separate parties for, you know, the board of directors and the employees. We have everyone together in the same environment, and everyone is there. So with the production department and with the corporate department, we decide on a date, usually in December, where we can celebrate all of our achievements for that year. However, at the same time, we always bring about this idea that leaders shouldn't only be celebrating during this end of the year party. They should find small opportunities to celebrate small achievements, even during the pandemic. How can we show people that they are appreciated every day and not only in this kind of party? I've been working at STIHL for 6 years, and this unfortunately is the first year where we won't have a party. But people understand why. And back in July, we told them that it was very unlikely that we would have a party this year. But we're going to celebrate it in a different way. We're going to send them a Christmas food package that is going to be very special for them to celebrate with their families.
Desculpa, gente. E aqui eu trago exemplo de jubilados, né? A gente tem aí uma média de tempo de casa de 8 anos.
Now here we have an example of our retirees. Usually our employees work for us for around 8 years. They are usually with us for a long time. So in average, 8 years. And when they retire or when they leave, we usually give them, a different badge with a special color or a plaque. And at the end of the year, we also invite their significant others to be a part of a celebration.
Entregamos também troféu de esculpido em madeira, e esse é evento
We also have trophies, and we give them trophies carved in wood. And people love this event. Last year, we had 2 peers who were here for 40 years, and one of them had been an operator for 40 years.
Assim, gente, de ações basicamente são essas que eu trouxe para compartilhar hoje com vocês.
So these were the initiatives I wanted to share with you today.
Encerrar dizendo que de fato, assim, quando a gente olha para as pessoas, quando a gente olha para o desenvolvimento delas.
In conclusion, I would like to stress that when we look at people, when we see them, and when we appreciate and truly emphasize the way they feel when they are working for us, of course we have fewer turnover, we have less turnover, and we get better results for the company. This is my contact info. Thank you once again for inviting me.
Muito obrigado, Renata.
Thank you, Renata. The experience that STIHL has had shows us that it's possible to have shared values in our daily operations, in our companies, and in our relationship with peers and employees, in an environment where everyone is able to grow. So thank you, and thank you to STIHL for being here. This is the end of the first day of the CSCB Sustainability Forum, with a gold sponsorship from JBS Couros and Smith & Zoon, and a silver sponsorship from Euro-America and Units Brazil. Before we wrap the first day up, I would like to show 2 more videos with very interesting content with a lot of insights for the audience. And please remember, we'll be back tomorrow as of 10 a.m. Brazilian time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Eu sou Relações Públicas e assistente social de formação. Estou na ONG Orienta a Vida há 8 anos, fazendo essa troca de experiências. A ONG Orienta a Vida trabalha de 2 formas com as assistidas. A gente tem mulheres fixas que vêm até o projeto e trabalham conosco diariamente, e a gente tem artesãs. Elas recebem a capacitação, o acompanhamento, e elas podem pegar o trabalho conosco, realizar nas residências ou realizar aqui na sede da organização. Por que isso? Primeiro que foi a logística que a gente achou para conseguir atender o maior número possível de mulheres no início. É o que a realidade socioeconômica nos traz, porque algumas mulheres não podem sair de casa pelos filhos. Então, para cada caso, a gente trabalha pessoalmente, trabalha com carinho, e independente de estarem internas, de serem externas, a gente faz o trabalho socioassistencial.
posso dizer da ONG Renata Vida? Para mim foi o início, um pontapé, digamos, inicial, porque eu vim para essa região sem nada.
E a importância da ONG Orienta a Vida para mim foi que aprendi cursos, eu consegui comprar minha casa, né? E eu mantenho, né, minhas filhas também, que são 3 meninos, porque não é fácil só. Hoje em dia eu acho que não é só o homem da casa para poder manter a casa. Hoje em dia eu creio que seja os dois.
A Orienta a Vida, ela mudou a minha vida, porque eu sempre fui dessa área de costura, mas nunca tive a oportunidade. E na ONG eu tive a oportunidade de mostrar o meu serviço, de aprender. Então foi muito bom. A gente está muito feliz com a parceria com a Leather Labs, que nos abriu os horizontes e nos trouxe essa ideia de mostrar da onde vêm os nossos produtos, as vidas que são transformadas com os produtos. E a gente trabalha agora efetivamente a questão da rastreabilidade, que mostra desde a matéria-prima do produto que está sendo trabalhado, todo o manuseio feito pelas mulheres que têm as vidas transformadas pela geração de renda e de trabalho que esse produto está proporcionando, até chegar no cliente final. E tudo isso, no processo de rastreabilidade, ele chega até a casa do nosso cliente. Então ele vai poder acompanhar um pouquinho do nosso dia a dia, um pouco da nossa história, da história de vida de cada uma das mulheres que são beneficiadas nesse processo.
Leather is one of man's earliest and most useful inventions. For thousands of years, leather has helped humans survive some of nature's harshest conditions. Over the centuries, the production of leather has evolved significantly. It's always been made from a byproduct which is sustainable in itself. Today, with consumers increasingly demanding chrome-free leather, it's time to revolutionize leather tanning. We are setting a new standard in sustainable leather, and we call it zeology. Let me take you through the science and chemistry behind the zeology tanning concept. It is the only chrome-free tanning alternative that is more sustainable and offers better leather performance. Tanning with zeology all starts out with zeolite, a combination of alumina, silicon sand and oxygen, elements which are all abundantly present in the Earth's crust. As zeolite is formed, the three materials form a network structure. We then modify the zeolite into a functionalized and aggregated structure to make it suitable as a tanning agent. Before starting the actual tanning, the hide needs to be prepared. Hair, fats and proteins are removed and the fibers are opened up to optimize the uptake of the zeology tanning agent into the collagen. The actual tanning takes place inside a drum with a water float that's been modified for tanning. When the collagen is properly prepared, we add zeology into the mix. The aggregated zeolite structures are dispersed into smaller particles. The patented treatment of the zeolite in zeology ensures that the level of dispersion is optimal to prepare it for the next step in tanning. The optimally dispersed zeology tanning agent penetrates into the hides, reaching even the smallest collagen fibrils. Thanks to the modification of zeology, it distributes evenly throughout the collagen. To start the actual tanning, zeology has to be activated by adding activation agents to the water float, as this increases the pH level. The dispersed zeology particles become more active towards the collagen, and they start to form a network. Zeology then covers the collagen fibers with a fixed and stable zeolite network. This is the point where zeology tanning is complete. What started out as a hide is now transformed into tan leather. which we call zeolite, containing mainly collagen and zeolite. Both components are not harmful to the environment. The intermediate zeolite is now ready to be processed to become a leather that can be used for anything from a handbag to a car seat. Now you see why zeology is truly revolutionizing the age-old tanning process. With this sustainable tanning concept, we are no longer dwelling on the past, but taking leather into the future.